good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm the Spaceman, and I've landed in your area on this late Friday night. It's about 11:38 p.m. to be precise. I am smoking a pipe and enjoying a good book. The pipe I'm smoking is my Boswell Shot Shell Billiard. And in it, I'm smoking some Lane 1Q, a fine tobacco that can be found in many brick and mortar stores under different names. Just to name a few, Wilshire is one of them, Quick Draw, Fireside, and who knows what else. I believe there's another one, but I can't think of it right now. There's probably many. Anyway, I'm enjoying a nice book tonight, and the book I'm enjoying is The Ultimate Pipe Book by Richard Carleton Hacker. And I would like to read a segment from this book for you. Also enjoying a nice glass of iced tea. So, I'm going to read a segment out of this book that I thought very interesting, which includes some history on pipe smoking. By 1602, pipe smoking had made its way throughout most of Europe, as well as India, and even into the isolated realms of China and Japan, where it was said special smoking societies had been established. Very few countries, such as Austria, tried to outlaw tobacco, but without much success. Of course, smoking a pipe in those early years was not without its pitfalls. Although popular, it was still a strange new custom to many who were not used to seeing others drink smoke. Our leader himself, Sir Walter Raleigh, tells us of two unpleasant pipe predicaments that befell him in the 1580s during pipe smoking's infancy. On one occasion, he was calmly smoking his clay pipe at a public gathering when, no doubt due to the strong raw tobacco he was using, Raleigh suddenly found himself quite devoid of female companionship. In fact, all of the ladies in the room left en masse until he had finished consuming his bowlful, a situation that I, out of respect for history, sometimes reenact today when smoking a particularly strong English blend that I favor. However, I have never encountered Sir Walter's second experience, in which his valet threw a bucket of water upon his master, thinking the famous pipe smoker was on fire because he was blowing smoke through his mouth. Funny, isn't it? Although Queen Elizabeth frowned upon pipe smoking, she put up with it, largely because of Raleigh's charm. He once bet her that he could actually weigh the smoke from his pipe. She accepted the bet, and Raleigh won by first weighing his fully packed pipe, then smoking it until it was empty and weighing it again. The difference between the two weights, he claimed, was the weight of the smoke. To her credit, the Queen paid the wager while stating, "Many alchemists have turned gold into smoke, but Raleigh is the first who has turned smoke into gold." These happy-go-lucky days of introductory pipe smoking were soon to end, however, as tobacco also had its enemies, among whom were King James, King Charles, and Cromwell. James was the first to make his anti-smoking wrath felt when, in 1603, he issued his infamous, to pipe smokers of then and now, counterblast to tobacco, in which he cursed all non-medicinal use of the weed in language that sought to send every pipe smoker down into the depths of hell. The king was so prejudiced against pipe smoking that if James I James I were alive today, he would no doubt put the smoking section of airlines on the runway rather than in the rear of the aircraft. Obviously, this book, dates back about over 30 years because there's no more smoking on airlines. That's been gone for a long time. There's not even a separate section. The King James counterblast was the first anti-smoking campaign in history, and like Prohibition 3 centuries later, it had just the opposite effect of its intended purpose. In order to make his views known, James had his anti-tobacco propaganda carried throughout the British Isles. As a consequence, Englishmen in even the remotest parts of the kingdom who had not yet heard of drinking smoke began to wonder just what was it about this strange new weed that caused royalty to be making such a fuss. Therefore, thousands were compelled to try it out of curiosity. To their pleasant surprise, they liked it, and pipe smoking caught on with the sudden intensity of a bone-dry bowlful of burley lit with a blowtorch in Death Valley. The king was appalled. How dare his subjects overrule his wishes? He raised the import duty on tobacco, and sales boomed. Moreover, tradesmen began importing other varieties of tobacco from Portugal and Spain. Finally, in an effort to divert some of the taxation in the colonies, John Rolfe began the first commercially grown crop of tobacco in North America in 1612, and the first shipment of American-grown West Indian tobacco was made to England 1 year later, starting an industry that helped bring prosperity to the fledgling colonies, which later became the same states that produce practically all of the English-made pipe tobacco today. It is a shame that most history books only refer to Rolfe as the husband of Pocahontas rather than as the man who started the tobacco industry in America. In spite of the royal displeasure it incurred, by 1615, a London historian wrote that tobacco shops are now as ordinary as tap houses and taverns. Clearly, pipe smoking was the thing to do in England, even though Cambridge students were threatened with expulsion if caught with a pipe in their mouths. But for Sir Walter, the penalty was even more severe. For while pipe smoking can sometimes make one giddy, it caused him to completely lose his head in the Tower of London. Before the executioner's axe blade fell, Raleigh's last act was to smoke a bowl of tobacco. One would assume that he chose a pipe with an extraordinarily large bowl and had what was probably the longest smoke in his life. The date of his execution was October 28, 1618, an event marked in London each year by the presenting of pipes and tobacco to the Chelsea pensioners at the Royal Hospital. Such is England's homage to their rightful place in pipe smoking history. Yet Raleigh did not die in vain. 1 year later, King James begrudgingly signed the charter incorporating all British pipe makers, an act he must have enjoyed as much as pipe smoking itself. But public opinion and the taxation laws ruled against him. James responded by banning from England all tobacco other than that which was shipped to the mother country from the colonies, and limiting even that amount to 100 pounds per year per planter. The Jesuit priests countered by stating publicly that tobacco was an aid to both health and morals, and such a paltry amount to be imported would not be enough to save mankind. In 1633, King James lashed out at pipe smoking again by requiring that all tobacconists be licensed. Although intended as punishment by taxation, the new law officially recognized the profession for the first time, therefore giving the tobacco shop a new stature in society. It seemed that every time King James would twist the pipe-smoking dog's tail, the animal would turn around and bite him. However, in other parts of the world, things were not going so well for tobaccophiles. Pipe smoking was already outlawed in Russia, Switzerland, and even in the colony of Connecticut, which passed a law prohibiting smoking a pipe in public. In Persia, the penalty for pipe smoking was instant death, and to this day it is still the only sure way to prevent an individual from enjoying his pipe. Wow, what dark times, huh? But the dark shadows that had been tainting the pure white pipe smoke were beginning to lift. Public opinion was gradually winning out, especially in those countries where the leaders had partaken of the clay pipe themselves. In France, King Louis XIII took a pinch of snuff in 1637, his first, it is believed, and enjoyed it so much that he immediately repealed all of France's anti-tobacco laws, therefore opening the doors for pipe smokers to come out of the French closets. In fact, France quickly turned the growing of tobacco into a profitable government monopoly, which by 1771 was yielding $5,500,000 to the Treasury. By 1917, that amount would grow to over $90 million. Meanwhile, in Russia, Peter the Great not only learned how to smoke a pipe, but consequently encouraged all Russians to do likewise. In Persia, the Shah was now smoking a pipe, and the death threat for smokers was lifted, enabling thousands of citizens to leave their smoke-filled tents and puff freely in the fresh desert air. By now, England was the undisputed pipe-smoking capital of the civilized world, in spite of the fact that it had many restrictive laws against the practice. By the mid-1600s, coffee houses were providing an assortment of clay pipes and various tobaccos for periodic use by guests. Pipe smoking was even looked upon as a deterrent to crime, as a publicized complaint by a hangman stated that there was not enough work for him to do because people were too busy growing, harvesting, and smoking pipe tobacco to have any time left over for breaking laws. In addition to the social bonds and relaxing moments it afforded, pipe smoking was widely viewed as a general cure for practically every known physical ailment of the 16th century, including headaches, hoarseness, stomach disorders, toothaches, and even the gout. Pipe smoking was believed to be especially helpful during the months spelled without an R, although through dedication, experimentation, I have found my pipe to be equally rewarding the other 8 months of the year as well. I'm going to stop there because it's very lengthy, but it's a good book. I highly recommend it. I wanted to show you this picture of this man, and he's smoking a porcelain pipe hanging out of a window so the smoke doesn't go into the place where he's at. Very interesting. So, yeah, it's a good book by Richard Carleton Hacker. I highly recommend getting it. And I just really wanted to read a segment out of this book for you. It's got a great cover. That's the back of the cover, and this is the front. Very nice book. Still available on eBay. So that'll be it for tonight. It's a book reading segment, and you'll have a wonderful Friday night. And I'll catch you in the next video.